right, file viners, welcome to today's Axiom for Success. I'm responsible for the words that come out of my mouth. Now today I'd like to start off with a little story that takes us back to Cannon Junior High School, the alma mater of Grade Maddox and myself. So 7th grade was starting out a little bit rough for me. I was a little bit of a late bloomer, at best we'll call it. And that day came where I wanted to hang out with this group of kids that I thought were the cool kids. And I didn't know how to approach them. And one day, one of those kids came up to me and said, "Hey, we're hanging out tonight. Let me give you a call. I'll just give you a buzz and then we'll get together." And I was on cloud 9. I mean, I was stoked. Finally, I'd gotten the invitation that I've been waiting for. From the kids that I thought were the cool kids that did all the cool stuff and had a lot of fun. So as soon as I got home, I actually ran home and I plopped myself down on the countertop there in the kitchen next to the landline. Of course, back when I was in junior high, kids didn't have cell phones. So I sat there and I remember my brother coming by and there was something really cool he wanted to do. And I said, no, I'm waiting for a phone call. I'm hanging out with those other kids tonight. It's going to be awesome. And I sat there and I waited at home about an hour, nothing, 2 hours, and then the phone rings and I am just stoked. I of course had to be cool, so I let it ring for about 3 times. And then I ripped the phone off the jack there and answered it. And of course, it was for my mom. So, a little bit devastated and then a little bit frustrated as my mom continued to talk on the phone. I continued to ask her, hey, are you getting busy? Is anybody trying to click in? Is anybody trying to click in? And she said no, finished her call, put it back on. Then all the family went out to ice cream that night. Of course, I was waiting for my call, of course the cool kids, they wait till after dark to hang out. So that's why I hadn't gotten a call yet. Look, long story short, I sat there till about midnight, no call, completely devastated, completely torn apart. Then I go to school the next day. I see the kid that invited me, and he said, "Hey, what's up? What's up, man? You just destroyed me. You just gave me the world and then took it away all in one night." Of course, I didn't say that, but I was thinking it, fighting back the tears. Look, the good part of the story is we eventually became great friends. We're still friends today. The bad part of the story is, man, this guy threw out something that I had depended on, that had changed my whole worldview, without any thought of whether he should follow up with it, or without any thought of him even being responsible for what he said to me. Being responsible for the words that come out of your mouth is a key principle for success in any group work, any office, any type of even social setting. I mean, look, there's things that happen when we communicate. We don't always say things that we're going to be responsible for. That could be just blurting out some clueless impression we have, some idea, some guess, without telling anybody that's an idea or a guess, or even go into lying. I mean, we have to think whenever we say something, is this something I'm going to be able to back up? Is this something that I actually know? So along that line, let's think about that. Why is it so important? Well, I like to rock climb. And one of the things you do when you rock climb is you set anchors, especially when you're going up a new path, you set an anchor. Well, the thing is, when you come back down, you leave that anchor in the rock, you're gone, you may never come back to that spot. But someone else will. And you also know someone else is going to use that anchor, and their life may depend on what that anchor is able to hold. So every time I set an anchor, I got to make sure it's done right. I got to make sure it's set in rock that isn't going to flake out. I got to make sure it's done in a way that it's going to hold through the test of time, because someone else's life, might actually depend on it. So what's the moral of the story? Don't set anchors into rock that isn't going to hold the weight of somebody else. It's the same thing with our words. We've got to make sure that we don't say anything that can't hold the test of time, because it might come back to bite us. And more likely than not, especially in a work setting, someone else is going to be depending on it. So let's talk about that. What are some of the mistakes we all make? Let's start out with lies. It could be a white lie. It could be a total out and out lie. Look, when we say something, we don't know exactly how someone else is going to depend on it. In the workplace, if I say something's done and it's not done, well, guess what? When we're working in a collaborative environment, once one thing is done, it triggers other responsibilities and other things that need to be done. Well, it's kind of a house of cards that can fall apart really easily. If someone says, hey, yeah, I sent out the paperwork to start the process, and then your coworkers start the rest of the process on your side, and then guess what? You don't have an approval. No one can do any work just because you didn't think to be more careful with the words that you had to say. Now let's move on to the next type of words or speech that we use that we aren't always responsible for, right? And that's language and speech that diverts attention or diverts meaning to a different way. So when I was dating my wife, I used to have to make the drive from San Francisco down to Los Angeles. Well, kind of in the middle, there's a city called Fresno, California. Beautiful place, lots of love for Fresno. But whenever I got to Fresno, that would give my later wife the idea of when I'd be able to get to her place. Well, of course, me always being on time, I would get that call when she figured I would be around Fresno, and I would answer the question of, hey, where are you? And I would say, hey, I'm an hour out of Fresno, knowing darn well that to her, she was thinking, oh, sweet, I'm an hour outside of Fresno, closer to Los Angeles where she was. But knowing full well in myself that no, I was still an hour away from getting to Fresno before, again, continuing on to Los Angeles. That type of diversion, what did it do? You know, at first I'm thinking, oh yeah, I sound like the champ, like I left on time, and then I can just blame it on traffic. Well, look, she, one particular time, had prepared a dinner that tasted like crap because it was all cold by the time I got there 2 hours later because I had told her the wrong time. And a lot of times in our desire to please people, we use diversion language to make things sound not as displeasing as we might perceive that they are. Again, forgetting that those people at the same time are going to depend on the words that we say, believing that they're true, right? The next type that we look at there is overconfidence. So often we like to play up the good things that we do. We like to play up our projects, the things that are working really well for us. Well, overconfidence is great, but overconfidence in our speech and in our projects can be really problematic when we don't qualify them. Like, hey, there could be this one issue, but everything else is really, really great. I've got a really positive attitude about it. Because if all we say is, hey, this is gonna be fantastic, it's in the hole, this sale is done, but it's not really done, well, people are gonna depend on that, and they're gonna move forward again, causing problems because I'm not realizing I need to be responsible for the words that come out of my mouth. Now, the other one that I want to talk about today is trade language. So all of us in our given trades or our given work have kind of a funny special language that we use, and we know other people don't understand it. So sometimes when we don't want to explain something fully, we can just use the technical language that we use in the type of work that we do. Confuses somebody. We know they're not going to want to ask us about it because then it'll make them look like they don't know what we're talking about. And then right there, I've avoided an opportunity to explain something to someone purposefully by using trade language, which I know is going to confuse them and create an ambiguity. While at the same time, I'm going to say, hey, so do you get what I'm saying? And they're going to say, yeah, and I'm going to move on. Look, it just doesn't work. So what's all this mean? How can I be responsible for words that come out of my mouth? Well, it's easy. Don't speak unless you know. Don't speak unless you are sure about what you're talking about and you know that you're ready to be responsible if somebody was recording you for everything you say. Act as if everything that you say is going to be written down. It'll make things a lot easier in the workplace. And if every time you speak, you're thinking, I need to be responsible for what comes out of my mouth, I'm telling you, it'll spread through your workplace. Let everybody know that's what you're doing and that you expect them to do the same. And you're going to see a lot more success in your business. And that's why File Liners, one of the axioms for success, I am responsible for the words that come out of my mouth. All right, thanks everybody. We will catch you next time.